Well, hello everybody. Welcome back. Jiu-Jitsu 2000. I'm coming at you with an interesting video. Today I want to talk about Alone, Season 3, Episode 1, folks. So if you haven't seen that episode, please turn this video off if you don't want spoilers, because I'm going to be talking about the show. I'm going to be looking down at my notes here. I wrote a lot of things down, so please don't get mad if I keep looking down. So there's a quote that comes on the screen. Again, this is Season 3, Episode 1. And the quote is by Napoleon Bonaparte, I think is how you say it. The first virtue in a soldier is endurance. Courage is only the second virtue. Wow. So day 1, 10 people. 10:19 in the morning, we're starting off with Jim. Beautiful scenery outside, man. The first view of Patagonia, and it looks cold. We're looking at Jim. Patagonia is one of the most sparsely populated regions in the world. That was a little annotation that came on the screen, and it says with 5 people per square mile. Wow, that's crazy. Little annotations that they put on the screen are pretty cool. So one thing that I've noticed about Patagonia as far as the resources there is I'm seeing a lot of streams. I'm seeing lakes, peaks. There's trees there, and there's bamboo. So the lakes, I would guess that are filled with trout, and I'll get to that a little bit later. So there's another annotation that comes on the screen. It says Patagonia was settled over 12,000 years ago, and it's remained largely uninhabited. So Jim, let's get back to Jim. He's going to build a shelter. Then another annotation comes on the screen, and it says 6 feet of rain annually. That's crazy. So Jim's very first shelter was what it looks like, a ridge line between 2 trees with paracord. He put a tarp on it, and it looks like a lean-to type shelter. I think that's really cool because the very first moment that you get there, you need something quick, I think. I think you need something quick, and you don't want to be spending a bunch of calories on day 1 building that permanent shelter. I think building your shelter when you first get there, I think should be a marathon, not a sprint. So I'm really happy that Jim did his shelter that way. Another thing that I thought was interesting was he made a raised bed, which was really cool. He used bamboo for that. So he talks about he's gonna go make a fire, and he started to go make a fire, and he had success. So I was really happy for Jim. Day 1, 10:19 in the morning. That was a really good thing for Jim. Let's fast forward. 11:51 in the morning. We're talking about Britt. First shot of him, in my opinion, he looks nervous. And he's checking out the area, getting his bearings, seeing what's going on. An annotation comes on the screen, and it says that the winds can reach upwards of 74 miles an hour. Did you hear that correctly, folks? 74 miles an hour winds. That is crazy. That's nuts. So I'm looking at the terrain, and it looks slippery. It looks very steep. It looks wet where he's at. So he's looking for a place where he can plot his camp setup. He found a skeleton. Looks like a cow. It's pretty cool. You know, something similar. Right here where I'm at, within 30 yards to the left of me, going north, there's a skeleton over there. So nothing new. He found a skeleton of a cow. Pretty cool. And then he's starting to talk about that a little bit, and he finds a jawbone that does not fit the skull. So he's starting to think that this is a kill zone, or a place where pumas might be eating their prey. And he's like, uh-oh. And then an annotation comes on the screen, and it says pumas. For those of you who don't understand what pumas are, they are big cats that will, with sharp teeth and claws, and they're pretty tough. And so the thing says pumas hunt alone and attack from behind breaking the neck of their prey by biting at the base of the skull. Man, that is hardcore. So again, just like I mentioned earlier, he found a jaw. Looks like it's from a different animal, or a different, you know, it's smaller, doesn't fit the skull. And so he thinks it's a kill zone, and then he hears a noise. And then I'm noticing behind him, you know, he's filming, and I'm noticing behind him in the video that he is like right on the main line of a game trail. And I hope it ain't a puma game trail. I'm noticing that. So let's fast forward 1:18 in the afternoon. We're still talking about Brit. There's another annotation that comes on the screen, and it says, puma have the ability to kill prey larger than humans, such as elk or moose. And this would definitely include cows. So yeah, a puma can take out an elk. I don't know how many of you hunt, but I can tell you from personal experience here in northern Arizona, our bull elk here are huge. And for a cat that's large enough to take out one of those things are tough. So pumas are, in my opinion, something that are definitely going to have to be taken seriously here on Patagonia. For people on this season and people that might be potential future seasons of alone. I think this is going to be something that they're definitely going to have to stay alert. You know, it's not like Vancouver Island where you're going to run into a black bear or something like that, in my opinion. So then he's walking around, he finds a pile of bear scat. So he decides to set a paracord snare. Bear scat, excuse me, sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. Boar scat, okay? Boars, wild pigs, 400 pounds, big tusks, okay? Not bear, I don't know what I was thinking. I'm just reading too fast, I guess. Boar scat. So he decides he's gonna set a snare. His idea is that he's gonna catch a boar. So he uses paracord, and he puts it, the snare looks like on kind of a trail where they might be going, and pretty cool. And then there's another annotation that comes on the screen. It says that adult boars can weigh up to 400 pounds. That's crazy. Can you imagine that? And they're extremely aggressive. They are like very, like, they get mad quick and they come after you. They're very, very aggressive. So my personal thoughts here, I wrote down, I think that his snare loop was a tiny bit small, but who knows? You know, it looked like his loop was, I don't know if a boar of 400 pounds is going to fit through that. I don't know. I can't judge the guy. You know, sometimes when you film, things on camera look smaller than they actually are. I don't know. I'm trusting his judgment that he's doing the right size snare. So who knows? He found a very nice fallen tree, and it looked like a good shelter location. So that's Brit. Let's move forward. About 4:18 in the afternoon, we're going to talk about Callie. She goes skinny dipping. And I'm thinking, what the hell? Okay, you know, whatever. And it looked cold over there. She says that everywhere she goes, she likes to get in the body of water at those locations to connect with those locations and to connect with the land. Okay, I mean, if that's what you want to do, I'm not against it. I just thought that it was a little bit, in my personal humble opinion, I thought that it was a little silly. Because things of hypothermia, I got nervous about that. But I don't know, it didn't, I mean, there wasn't snow on the ground or anything like that. So again, we're in one of those situations where we got to trust their judgment, you know, and if she's comfortable getting in the water, then us as viewers, we have to trust their judgment. So she's got a ridge line up with a lean-to tarp shelter, and she has a nice rock fire pit with a reflector. So she has a fire pit with some rocks that are going to radiate that heat into her lean-to. Very nice little shelter, being a temporary one. And she says, I'm not trying to survive out here. This is my home. This is where I'm moving to. That's a good mindset to have. There's another annotation that comes on the screen. It says that bamboo is native to Argentina and can grow up to 20 feet high. So she decides she's gonna cut some of that bamboo and make a chair. And it looks cool, the chair is nice. Let's fast forward, 11:37 at night, talking about Brit. He hears a loud noise, man, like screaming or something. I don't know what those sounds were, but I played back that section a few times, and to me, it sounded like monkeys. I don't know, I could be wrong. It was very dark, and he had a headlamp, so he decided to go check his snare. Maybe, I mean, pigs and boars and things like that, they scream. I don't know if you ever grew up, but I grew up on a farm, and we had pigs and stuff, and when we'd butcher, they'd scream. So that could have been the sound, I don't know. He checks his snare, and there's nothing there. And it shows his feet, and he's walking, like it's very moist where he's at. It's very wet. He's walking in some water. Let's fast forward, 8:55 in the morning, day 2. We're talking about Jim. He says that it feels good to say the word day 2. I agree. It probably would feel good to know that you made it through night 1 of Alone. Because there's probably a lot of anticipation, traveling, and you finally get there, and all these emotions and feelings, and then to just be thrown out there. And I mean, I guess day 2 would be a good feeling of progress, like, okay, the new is wearing down, I'm ready to do this thing, kind of thing. That's just my thoughts. So he decides he's gonna get up and make a teepee, and I thought that was smart. So he cuts these logs. Looks like they're about, I don't know, 3-inch diameter logs. They're long, and he makes the skeleton for it, and then he lays in some other logs, and takes his tarp and he wraps it around, and he talks about how the smoke and stuff can exit. And I got to give him a lot of credit. It was a nice looking shelter. He made a raised bed as well, and raised beds I think are important in cold temperatures. So he's already starting on his permanent shelter. So he took like these logs, and then he put bamboo slats across. Nice raised bed. Smart, very smart. So let's fast forward, 4:18 in the afternoon, back to Callie. She talks about her body is tired. Again, like I mentioned a minute ago, all the stress, all the anxiety, all this, flying around on helicopters and getting dropped off boats, whatever means of transportation that they were in, that probably could be an emotionally overwhelming thing. So yeah, her body is tired. She says she's going to spend the day exploring. Said she's not going to be hunting boar. In my opinion, hunting is part of survival. So, but I got to give her credit. She's probably planning on focusing on foraging and fishing, she said. So then she sets one line out, found a wood, mushrooms and berries, and says this place is abundant and beautiful. I agree with her on that. It is a beautiful place, Patagonia. I'm not just looking at the people, the contestants, but I'm looking behind them and everything that's in the view of the camera. It is a very pretty place. So she catches a fish. It's a trout. And she decides to cut this thing open and see what he's been eating. She finds a snail, a beetle, and some little sticks. So she's going to use the beetle for bait, and I thought that was very smart, because she already knows that they're biting on that. She found it inside the fish. Then she catches a second fish. How lucky is this woman? Day 2, she's already got 2 fish. I think that's pretty cool. So let's move forward to day 3, 9:54 in the morning, back to Jim. 45 degrees outside and it's raining. We all knew this was going to happen. Looks like he's breaking down mentally already, because it shows this shot of him and he's like staring. And I don't know about you guys, but when I saw that, I saw like a break of mental toughness. I personally thought that he was mentally cracking. And then he kind of snaps out of it, and he talks that he has a lot of plans, but it's raining. And it's dark all the time. So already he's kind of cracking, I think. And then there's an annotation that says, most of us get 15 hours of daylight this time of year, but Patagonia only gets 9 hours of daylight. And that kind of hit home for me, that statement that they put on the screen. When I was in the military, I was stationed in Bremerton, Washington. You know, Washington State, and we used to go up to Seattle, and it was like that up there. You know, it's kind of depressing. You know, if you kind of look, I don't know if you can see it behind me right now, but it's kind of overcast here where I'm at right now. And when you have days like that over and over and over, it does create a depressed type mood. You know, I remember praying for sunny days when I was in Bremerton and Seattle. And so then he starts talking about his wife and the kids that they're planning to adopt. And he says that it's overwhelming. And then he says the number one rule of survival is PMA, positive mental attitude. And I agree. You got to stay focused. You got to stay positive. You can't afford to get negative. I think he's hit the nail on the head. I agree with him 100%. The next thing we see, he's holding his radio. And I'm like, no, don't do it, bro. He's throwing rocks out into the lake. And then it shows him calling it in, and he's tapping. Day 3, Jim's out. I can't knock him. I can't sit here and be an armchair quarterback. I got to give him credit for getting out there and at least doing 3 days. Now, I'm going to say this, and I hope that you guys forgive me ahead of time for saying this, but there is a small part of me that's very strong in thinking, you know, like last season we had Desmond quit on day 1, and then now we have a guy quitting on day 3. And there's a lot of people like myself, and we are like chomping at the bit to go. This is like our passion, and we're willing to give everything we got to go. And to see someone go and quit on day 1 like last season with Desmond and Jim on day 3, it's frustrating for us. It really is. You know, and he mentioned that. I got to give credit to Jim, because he did mention that. He said there's thousands of people that wanted to be here, and this is what I did. So he owned it. Mad props to Jim for that. I really do. I got to give him credit. So he's going to go home to his wife and the 3 boys that they're adopting, and he says he just can't get it out of his head. And my thought was, stay busy, keep yourself busy, and you wouldn't have time to be thinking about all these things. But nonetheless, he quit. And he said, it's cold out here, it's wet, it's dark, and it takes a special kind of person to do this. I got to give credit to Jim, I really do. Let's move forward. 1:27 in the afternoon, day 3, Fowler. We have 9 people left. He's got an A-frame tarp with a ridge line, and it rained all night. He's looking for a place to make a permanent shelter. He finds some boar scat, and he says that Maine is nothing compared to this. He found a downed tree. He's thinking of using this downed tree as the back of his shelter. And he said that going up the hill will be hard. I agree. Let's not forget that they have these big cases full of camera gear that they have to drag around. I mean, it's not just like they're carrying a GoPro and going up a mountain, up a hill or something. They got to carry all their gear wherever they choose to make their shelter. So I agree with them on that. He found a cow skeleton. Now let's move forward. We're still talking about Fowler. We're still on day 3. 7:33 in the evening. 42 degrees. He's setting up a fish line. He found a spot with bamboo, to build shelter. He's planning to do a little bit of work each day. I think that's smart. Remember I mentioned earlier, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. I think that's smart, feller. I really do. He hears something big crashing around up the hill, and he sees these eyes. Man, this was eerie. He sees these eyes, and the first thing I thought was, when I saw the video, I thought, and correct me if I'm wrong, folks, but a boar, their eyes are more on the side of their head, but these two eyes were aimed forward, which told me clearly that that was a puma. I could be wrong, but I thought it was a puma. And yeah, he sees the glimpse of the eyes, and my thoughts were that the eyes are in the front, making it a puma. Boar's eyes are more on the side of the head. I just mentioned that. So it's a puma, I'm thinking. So then he goes back to his camp. It's dark outside, and the show ends. So there's the end of season 3, episode 1. They kind of left us hanging. Good episode, though. For all you armchair quarterbacks out there that are going to be harping on Jim, let's not do that, please, folks. He went out there, he did his thing, and let's give him respect. Let's trust his judgment. So I hope you guys got some good information out of this video. Please feel free to leave your comments down below sharing your thoughts on episode 1. I'd love to hear them. And until next time, folks, thanks again for watching. Have a beautiful day. We'll see you next week, sometime with season 2. Excuse me, episode 2. Have a beautiful day. Bye-bye.